Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Tony Jones, and I'd like to welcome you to Unleash Your Inner Power. Hey, everyone. I'd like to start by thanking you for listening in and coming along on this journey as I really just share and express my thoughts regarding the law of attraction. And specifically on this episode, the law of attraction and the law of reflection. But before we get into that, I'd like to take a moment to introduce myself. As I said in my intro, my name is Tony Jones, and I've been studying the law of attraction for about 17 years. But my spiritual journey, I realize now, actually began when I was very young. Thinking back, I always seemed to be searching for or trying to remember my magic, my power, who I am in this world and what I came here for. And I say that because I started at a young age with not only an interest in the Bible, and what I knew of it at that time, but also I was interested in kind of all things magical. I was interested in being a magician, as most kids are. We're so interested in the magic tricks and the little fake magic shows. But I don't know, I just kind of knew that somehow there was could be some reality to that. I remember also being very interested in being able to move things with my mind, or being able to speak to someone telepathically. Like, all of those things interested me. And from a Bible perspective, my mom was Catholic. So, we always had the big, huge white baptismal Bible in the house. However, we only actually went to church, to the Catholic Church, to Mass on major holidays, Easter, Christmas, New Year's maybe, but mainly Easter and Christmas. So that was really the introduction I had to the church and the Bible. And so I would just pull that big book out and, attempt to read it. And I don't know how much I actually got out of it. I was so young. I think that, a lot of times I would pull it out as kind of when I'm in trouble, like, oh no, God, I can't be in trouble, Mom. Look, you can't punish me right now. I'm reading the Bible. So learning manipulation at a really young age too, unfortunately. But yeah, that's where my spiritual journey started. And fast forward, when I was about 14, I actually was introduced to the Christian church. And that started a very in-depth study, because I was like, oh, it was almost like something inside of me was like, oh, this is what we were looking for before. And, of course, there's a whole world around Christian principles and beliefs. And I just dug deep, dove right in. I mean, everybody used to make fun of me because I had such a library of information in my house. I look like a library. It's like my house looked like a library. I actually had all kind of books. I mean, I could have gone to a seminary school. I had all kinds of multiple different translations of Bibles, multiple versions, parallel translations written in Greek and Hebrew with English translations, and Bible encyclopedias, and you name it. I was just digging in and trying to figure out what this book was saying. And somewhere along the line, I remember just getting pretty mesmerized with the scripture where Jesus said that, with all the miracles and all the things that he had done in his lifetime, there was a scripture where he said that the church would do even greater works than he did. And that scripture really caught my attention, because I thought, sounds like a really power-packed scripture, but I don't really see anything like what, these miracles that were recorded in the Bible. I wasn't seeing anything like that in existence on the earth. So when were these greater miracles going to start? Or was there some mystery to it that we were all missing? So that I think that question kind of opened me up to new information, to expand my search to, other things outside of just the Christian perspective. I wanted more of a world perspective. I wanted to understand why there seemed to be so much fear around exposing yourself to non-Christian beliefs. But, something really bothered me with the idea that only a very, very small percentage of the entire world population who knew the Christian theology could go to heaven. Like, that really bothered me. So again, that kind of opened me up for a search and understanding on a more global level of what was really going on spiritually. So I guess I was early 30s when I was first introduced to the ideas surrounding law of attraction. And I'll go into that a little more or really much more detail as we move forward in other episodes and even later in this episode. But I just wanted to give you that brief introduction to me. I've been on quite a journey of 17 years of digging into everything law of attraction. Goodness. I couldn't even tell you all in this brief intro, but as I promised, we will get into more of it as we go along. So I hope you'll stick around with me, and let's really get to know each other and delve into some of these topics, and let's learn some more about each other. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, so you may have heard of law of attraction, but maybe wondering what in the world is law of reflection. Well, I honestly had no clue what it was after over 10 years of studying the law of attraction. I thought I had studied every possible subsection of law of attraction, but no, not even close. You begin to realize that you've only begun to fall down the proverbial rabbit hole. The more you begin to study, the more you dig into law of attraction and try to figure it out. That's when you realize that you've only just begun. You're at the tip of the iceberg. So my journey started when I read the book Happy Pocket Full of Money. That book introduced me to the concept that what we perceive as our world is simply an illusion or a hologram. Then a few years later, I was introduced to The Secret. I think I watched the movie, and then that led to me buying the book. And of course, I watched the movie over and over again, like many of you may have. I believe in The Secret was the first time I actually heard the phrase law of attraction, because I don't think that phrase was used in Happy Pocket Full of Money, although that was like 17 years ago, so I could be wrong. But prior to that, I was studying the Christian Bible, like since I was a teenager. So 20 plus years of studying the Bible. And when I was introduced to law of attraction, I immediately noticed the parallels, many, many parallels in the teachings. Like asking, and whatever you ask for shall be given. I'm probably mixing up the scripture and the law of attraction teachings by now, because I've been so involved with both for decades. But you know what scripture I'm talking about. There's so many. Ask, believe, receive is a scripture. Whatever you ask for, believing, you shall receive. Like all of these scriptures. So I immediately noticed the parallels. So that kind of relaxed my Christian radar and allowed me to receive some of the information. So anyway, that's what we're going to get into today. But first, I'd like to make sure that we're on the same page with our understanding of law of attraction. Law of attraction is not simply like attracts like. I hear the argument from so many people I talk to that say, it can't be that because I attracted this or that person and I'm not like that. So how can it be like attracts like? Well, law of attraction actually means like feelings and emotions attract like situations and circumstances. Those situations and circumstances will match the feelings and emotions as long as those feelings and emotions are still active vibrations within you. And usually if you felt them recently, if you felt a certain feeling or emotion recently, it is still active in you. So for example, if you're feeling angry about something, maybe someone jumped in front of you in traffic and you went into a tirade about it for like 10 minutes, you were fuming. Then you went home and you retold the story to your husband, to your best friend, to your cousin, etc., because you were still so upset about it. Well, you can pretty much guarantee that through law of attraction, you will experience other situations that will bring you the same level of anger or upset because your vibration will be a match to those new situations. Now, I know that many people are like, law of attraction doesn't work because they've been trying to attract something for a long time, like their soulmate, and that person hasn't shown up. But trust me, if you're seeing situations that match your emotions, your feelings show up, then you have evidence that it works. Now, law of attraction is very specific, meaning every subject is really two subjects. So the emotion you feel when you have something and the emotion you feel when you're experiencing the lack of something, like when something is missing. So those are the two subjects. It's the emotion you feel when you have something and the emotion you feel when you're experiencing something. Okay, so when someone says that they've been trying to attract a soulmate, they'll usually find that their dominant thoughts and feelings are about how much they miss not having anyone in their life. Like that's what you're usually thinking about over and over again. So what you attract is more of the experience of not having someone in your life because your dominant thoughts and feelings are about how much you don't like being alone and how much you miss someone. So that's your dominant vibration. So you're attracting more of that dominant vibration of not having someone. So that's what law of attraction is matching. Of course, there's much, much more that can be said about law of attraction and how to make sure you're on the right end of the stick, but we'll save that for later podcasts. For now, let's jump into defining law of reflection and how it relates to law of attraction, because it may also help you clear up some misconceptions or, help you to realize that, in fact, law of attraction is working for you at all times. So first, understand that emotion is energy in motion. And at our core, we are energy beings or vibrational beings or frequency beings. And similar to radio waves, we can only receive what matches our radio station or the radio waves that we are emitting. But then that leads to the question, well, if I can only receive what I'm a match to, then what message should I gather from the things that show up in my life? And that's where law of reflection comes in, because the mirror of the universe is so honest and so accurate that your deepest secrets, as in who you are, how you're vibrating, and at what frequency, will show up in the reflections you see, or the people and circumstances that show up in your life. Those are reflections. Every single person, every situation in your life is a mirror of an aspect of yourself. So good or bad, positive or negative, everything is mirroring an aspect of you. So you have to begin to look inward, for instance. And most people are like, what are you talking about? Well, a good example is a mirror. When you look at the mirror, you wouldn't look at the mirror and go, wow, that mirror looks sad. I wish it would smile, right? Like you would never expect the mirror to smile first. You know that if you want to see an image of a smiling person, when you look at the mirror, you have to smile. And so your entire world works that way. You have to change in order for the things that you're out picturing, those things that are a reflection of you, to change. The mirror is a perfect teacher, and it's a reminder that you must change if you want to see something different. So I would suggest, and something that I do is, constantly standing in front of the mirror, looking at my own image, remind myself that, yeah, if I'm not liking what I'm seeing, then I've got to change me. And that just reminds me to exercise that in my external world as well, right? So you have to look at, what's the practical application of that? Like, how is the law of reflection actually speaking to you? And you'll do that by asking yourself, well, what are the people that you're running into? What are they mirroring back to you? Or what are recurring circumstances and situations mirroring back to you? Or what are your emotions mirroring back to you? The people you encounter will be a reflection of characteristics that you either highly admire, you want to avoid, something you strongly fight against or react negatively to, or something you see in yourself and you fully dislike, right? So again, those four things that the people you encounter are usually reflecting back to you. Again, something or someone you highly admire, and those will be the people that you like because you resonate with them, or they are vibrating at the same frequency as you, right? They're on the same wavelength. So those people usually make you feel good. Those are great encounters. You're like, oh my God, I resonate with you. Like you're my soul tribe, right? Second one is people or things that you want to avoid, because deep down inside, you recognize something in them that you've been suppressing in yourself. Like if you know you've had anger management issues in the past and you haven't really dealt with those issues, well, you're going to keep encountering angry people and you're going to feel like you're a victim of that. But in fact, they're reflecting back to you something you haven't fully dealt with in yourself. The third one is something that you strongly fight against or that you react negatively to every time you hear about it, right? And that's very similar to something you want to avoid. You kind of have this visceral reaction to it because it's something you've been suppressing or fighting against as an aspect of yourself, something that you don't want to deal with, something that you don't want to admit to. And this was a really tough one because it's not usually so evident, like as in anger management, right? You have these outbursts. Usually this third one is really more about things that you are secretly hiding within yourself. Like, for instance, you'll see this a lot with sexual promiscuity in religious leaders, right? We hear of these, these high profile religious leaders, and, on TV, we hear about some major sexual promiscuity, that they've been hiding, sometimes abusively, but sometimes just hiding something that they're personally going through. But it contradicts something that they're preaching in the pulpit, so they've been hiding it. Well, if something like that angers you, you have to ask yourself, how am I like that? What secret am I hiding? And I don't want it to be disclosed. And so when I see that someone else's secret has been revealed, it really triggers me. And that's a hard one to deal with. That's probably one of the last things that people ever really want to deal with within themselves, because you're hiding it for a reason, right? Either from yourself, from shame, or afraid of the criticism that's going to come from someone. But that is a deep thing that needs to be dealt with in your life. And the fourth thing is you see yourself in this person, and it's something that you just like, right? Like for example, what I'm looking for is like prior drug users, right? Of course, they see someone using drugs and it becomes a trigger. So the fourth one would be something that you've struggled with, and you don't want to see that because you feel like you haven't fully dealt with it and it's going to trigger you. So you kind of, instead of having empathy, it becomes something that you just really disdain. So those are really the four ways that that you'll see people showing up in your life. So you really need to ask yourself, when you have a reaction of any kind to the people in your life, you have to ask yourself, well, what state of being is this person reflecting about me? Where in my own life am I exhibiting this behavior? What is it that I do not want to reveal about myself to myself? And again, that's one of the toughest ones. Or what am I avoiding dealing with, even though I hear a still small voice telling me to face it and make a change? For example, for that specific one, if people are in your life are taking you for granted, or you feel like people are using you, you need to ask yourself, wait, so where am I taking myself for granted? Maybe by not taking care of myself or always putting myself last. And I know as moms, we do that a lot, right? Because we're not exercising self-care and we're always last on the list in our families, we tend to attract these people that are always seem to be using us or taking us for granted, right? So that's something that we have to deal with within ourselves. So hopefully this This helps to define what law of attraction is. We'll get into more discussions in later podcasts and all of the ways that law of reflection shows up in our lives. In the meantime, I'd love to hear your thoughts or questions on the subject of law of attraction or law of reflection. So if you're listening from the Anchor app, tap the message button to leave me a voice message, and I'll reply during the next episode. And on my next episode, I'll be getting into the who of law of attraction. Who is the cause, really? Really, right? If I am the cause, then who am I? Who am I? And why do I have this ability to create in the world? All right, so thank you for listening in. I'm excited to hear from you, and I'm looking forward to the conversations we will have going forward. Enjoy your day and be blessed. Namaste.